We're all about burnout-proof productivity here on the podcast, so I'm excited to share that I'm a featured speaker at the Beyond Corporate Burnout Summit, March 17th through 19th, 2026. It's a calm, supportive virtual event for high-achieving women, and it's free. Save your spot at positivelyproductive.com/beyond26. If habits work best when they reflect real life instead of ideal conditions, then the way to build habits that truly work for you is to personalize them. That means designing habits that fit the life you're actually living. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and today we're continuing our conversation about taking action in ways that move your life forward. The actions that create real lasting change are the ones that eventually become habits, something we've talked about quite a bit here on the podcast. We've explored how habits work in the brain, how small steps create meaningful change, and how stacking habits together can help you build momentum. There's no question habits are important. To quote James Clear from Atomic Habits, habits are the building blocks of success. They create the foundation for developing our character and for creating real change in our lives. But because the principle behind habits is automating behavior, they can work both ways. The routines that build us up can become automatic, but the ones that pull us away from what we want can become automatic too. Anyone who's tried to develop a positive habit knows two things. The habits that don't serve us often seem easier to fall into, and the ones we want to build can feel much harder to maintain. Part of that is because many unhelpful habits provide immediate reward, comfort, distraction, relief, while positive habits often take longer before we experience the payoff. In an instant gratification world, this can be a real challenge. That's why it's so important that we design habits that truly work for us, so the supportive ones can actually last. The challenge usually isn't lack of desire or intention. Most of us genuinely want to build habits that are healthy and supportive for our lives. I see it with clients, I watch it with friends and loved ones, and I experience it for myself. We try to choose things that would make our lives better, but many times those habits fade away all too easily. Sound familiar? Maybe you start strong for a week or two. Maybe you follow the plan for a month. You white knuckle that and you keep going. You are determined. Then life happens. Your schedule changes. Your energy drops. Something unexpected demands your attention. And suddenly, the habit that once felt so doable disappears. And when that happens, it's easy to assume the problem is you. You tell yourself you must lack discipline or consistency and wonder why everyone else seems to manage this fine, but you're still struggling. Now, this isn't to say you don't have a role in developing a habit. Discipline can certainly play a part. You need to have the right intentions, and you need to be determined and motivated. But there's another important aspect of habit development we don't talk about enough: personalization. And that is what I do as a coach. Many of the habits we try to build come from expert advice in books and programs and productivity systems that promise you this is going to be the game changer for you. But they're often designed for ideal conditions, or at the very least, conditions that don't match your life. These morning routines that take an hour, or daily workouts that require a significant block of time to incorporate all the components, Journaling practices that assume that you'll sit down every morning with a fresh cup of coffee in a quiet house. Excuse me while I scoff. Listen, those things can be wonderful. And if you can do them, more power to you. But that kind of guidance assumes a certain kind of life. Those things assume predictable schedules, stable energy, minimal interruptions. And most of us have very different lives from that. We're caring for family members, navigating health challenges, running a business, working irregular or long hours, and simply trying to keep up with everyday responsibilities and the interruptions that are part of life. And when habits are built for ideal conditions instead of real life, what are the chances they'll actually hold up? Slim to none, and Slim just left the building. I don't know where that saying came from, but I say it all the time. Habits that work beautifully on your best days but collapse the moment life gets complicated aren't the ones you want because they won't last. If habits work best when they reflect real life instead of ideal conditions, then the way to build habits that truly work for you is to personalize them. That means designing habits that fit the life you're actually living. And there are a few key factors that influence whether a habit will realistically work for you: your capacity, your personality and values, and the season of life you're in. It also means creating an environment that supports what you're trying to accomplish. When your habits align with those factors, they're far more likely to become part of your life instead of another abandoned attempt at improvement. Let's explore a few ways you can personalize your habits so they truly support the life you're living. The first factor to consider is your capacity, your time, energy, mental bandwidth, emotional load. One of the biggest mistakes people make when building habits is designing them around their best days instead of their typical ones, or even their hardest ones. Think back to examples we mentioned earlier: long morning routines, daily workouts that require a full block of time, journaling practices built around these ideal conditions, and also significant length of time. Now, they sound wonderful. It's kind of the ideal thing you see with influencers online, right? Having that slow morning routine with all of these wonderful power hour kind of things. But if they require more time or energy than you regularly have available, they're not going to be sustainable. This is where comparison creates real problems because you feel at fault somehow that you can't do this, or you feel badly because you're not able to do what they're doing. But it also involves this understanding and acceptance that your life is not suited to that right now. You might not be in a time in your life where you can do that. See, you could even try. You could try that power hour, and it might work beautifully for a while, but that kind of habit will disappear the moment life takes over or anything becomes less than ideal. A more sustainable approach is to design habits that fit easily into the normal days, or even better, work on the hectic or low energy ones. And that might mean shrinking the habit that you'd like to do, or creating a minimum version for those days that you can do even when your capacity is limited. It takes some flexibility and some options. When it comes to habits, consistency matters far more than intensity. Let me say that one more time because I think this is so important. When it comes to habits that will help you succeed, consistency matters far more than intensity. A great example of that is actually skill acquisition. I've said this so many times as a musician that when you are trying to learn a new instrument, shorter periods of time of practicing that are more consistent will actually help you get further faster in learning the instrument than waiting once a week and doing a long session. So take that to heart, that those smaller bits of exercise, the 10 minutes at a time that don't feel like they're going to do anything, will actually do more for you than you realize, not the least of which is helping you develop the actual habit. Another important way to personalize your habits is by considering your personality and your values. Not everyone is motivated the same way. not everyone acts the same way. Some people thrive on structure and routine, while others prefer flexibility and variety or need those things in their life and can't handle feeling boxed in. Some people enjoy tracking habits and building streaks and are really motivated by challenging themselves, whereas others may find that monitoring stressful or discouraging. They will only see the negative part of the tracking. If a habit's designed in a way that conflicts with your personality and values, it can feel like constant resistance. You're going to be fighting it the entire time because it feels off. It doesn't feel like it fits you. It's like an uncomfortable sweater where the tag is itching your neck. For example, if you value and prefer flexibility, you may struggle with that rigid daily routine or that morning routine that I talked about where you have to do these certain things. I find this a lot with my rebel and questioner clients. They want to have freedom and flexibility to do what makes sense in the moment. Or if you're someone who enjoys novelty, you may lose interest in repeating the exact same habit every day. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but hello, I see this a lot with my ADHD clients. That is something that the brain craves, that novelty. So we have to come up with a way to do different kinds of options of the same habit that can offer the novelty needed while still bringing the consistency. Values matter too. Habits are much easier to maintain when they support something that genuinely matters to you. Your why drives resilience. When a habit feels disconnected from your values, it can start to feel like another obligation rather than something that supports you. And there could be something in you underlying that you don't even realize, like subconsciously, that keeps you from doing the thing because you don't believe in it. But if a habit connects to your health, your family, your creativity, or the kind of life you want to build and that you believe in, it becomes easier to return to even if you get off base, even if you get off schedule, even on the days when motivation is low. You will return to it because it makes sense to you, because it matters, because you believe in it. Another reason habits sometimes fail is that our lives are constantly fluctuating, and we need to account for that. We experience seasons where our energy and availability cycles, and where responsibilities and challenges may increase. Caregiving, health recovery, a demanding work project, family transitions, any number of things can contribute to a specific season of life and what you need to be doing during that time and what you're able to do during that time. And your habits need to adjust with that. Instead of abandoning habits entirely, you can ask yourself, what version of this habit fits the season I'm in right now? An example of that for me is how I incorporate music into my life. This is something I know I've learned that I need to do for my mental health, for my very being. My favorite ways to fully experience music is through playing instruments, singing, and performing. But not every season of my life has allowed for that. So I've had to switch instruments, change collaboration opportunities, and sometimes stick with playing music in the car and singing along. I use whatever options I can to fit my current season to ensure that music is still involved. So, when you consider the cycles and the seasons of your life, you can consider what you want to do with the habit. When you have more energy and space, your habits can focus on your growth and you can expand into that. But when life gets heavier, you can give yourself permission to simply maintain the routines, kind of touch upon the habit that help you stay steady and help you stay in the game. The final factor you want to consider that brings it all together is your environment. Habits don't exist in isolation. And your environment is a really important part of how things aren't necessarily ideal. See, sometimes a habit struggles not because of discipline or motivation, but because your environment makes it difficult. In earlier episodes, we've talked about the concept of friction, the idea that the easier something is to do, the more likely we are to do it. And the harder it is to do, the less likely we are to follow through. Our environment often determines how much friction a habit has. If the tools you need are inconvenient to access, if distractions constantly interrupt you, or if the setup for a habit requires too many steps, that friction makes the habit harder to maintain. And as much as we'd like to believe we're going to do the thing, even initially when we have the willpower and the determination and the motivation, it's not sustainable. When you design your environment to support a habit, by making it easier to begin and removing unnecessary obstacles, you dramatically increase the chances the habit will actually happen and happen repeatedly. I know we wish that we could do the difficult thing, but if you take away nothing else from today, please take away the idea that a habit you develop that feels easy to do, and maybe even so easy that it's not going to do anything for you, is actually the habit you want, because it's the one that you can repeatedly do. It's the one that you can build into. It's the one that you feel confident that you can take the W and keep moving forward. Your environment can help you do that. If you're thinking about a habit you'd like to build or one you'd like to improve based on what we chatted about today, here are a few questions to consider, and these take into consideration the factors we just talked about. Ask yourself, does this habit fit my typical capacity or even my slower days? Does it match my personality and preferences? Does it fit who I am? Does it work within the season of life I'm in right now? Does it make sense for that season? And does my environment make it easier or harder to follow through? Once you have those answers, you can begin adjusting a new or existing habit accordingly. Sometimes it takes a little trial and error, but when you understand who you are, how you work best, and what will make taking that action easier, you set yourself up for success. As we close this episode today, I encourage you to look at your habits with a fresh perspective. When you design the habits that you want to be able to succeed in, that you want to keep, and you design them around your real life instead of ideal conditions, something important shifts. They become sustainable. You get more wins. You get the dopamine rush that's going to keep you at it. It's what leads to the kind of consistency that allows habits to truly support you. If you'd like to explore habits a bit more, including the science behind them, different ways to build them, and ideas for habits that can support your goals, check out the Habits playlist on the podcast page at positivelyproductive.com. And if you've made a habit of listening to the show, thank you for that. I love spending time with you each week, and I look forward to doing it more. I'd love to hear from you to learn your takeaways from today's episode and answer questions, or to get ideas for future episodes. You can find me through the positivelyproductive.com website, through social media like Instagram at positively_Lisa, or through requested resources. Whenever you choose something like the guided mind sweep or the toolkit, if you request or purchase a resource, you become a VIP email list member. And you can hit reply to any message I send out to you and share your thoughts that way too. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. I hope this episode inspired you, and I encourage you to think about one action you can take based on today's topic. Then share it with me so I can cheer you on. Go to positivelyproductive.com to connect with me, read blog posts, and access links from each episode and download resources.